Hello. So here I am in lovely San Francisco, California, uh, here with probably what is one of the most hyped KZ releases in a very long time, probably ever, I think. Um, and well, you probably guessed it at this point. It's the CRN. So a little bit of context here. I was sent this by KZ, with no other requirements other than to review it. So that's what I'm doing. Um, and more to the story of this earphone here. Um, this particular model is actually the ZEX Pro, which is which is what the CRN was a rebadge of. It's effectively the soft launch version of the CRN. And I guess the story behind this is that KZ wanted to do a collaboration of some kind with Critical, and well, they made that happen. Um, and Critical kind of got them to use standard measurement systems and uh, adhere to industry standards, or actually his standard of earphone performance. So, what is the result? Well, the result is a very nice earphone from KZ. Without a doubt, probably one of the best I've heard from the brand, and for the budget, really. Um, So it is running mostly critical target. Um, it has a single dynamic driver and an electret and a balanced armature tweeter. I have no idea how much the other two drivers are actually used, knowing KZ, but regardless, the results are quite good. Uh, so, I guess just to really quickly get into the sound. Well, before I get into the sound, um, the actual build itself is very good for the budget. I think it's not. I mean, it's standard. It's a little bit above standard KZ. Um, it's not an all metal body. It has this nice, fairly solid feeling, fairly nicely textured faceplate, metal faceplate, I believe. And then on the other side is KZ's standard large housing, which is what they use on all their higher end stuff, I guess. It has this kind of protrusion here, and it's very large. And for larger ears, it might be very ergonomic. However, I did have trouble with it sticking out a little bit from my ears, as you may be able to see. It fits nicely, but not the most comfortable to my ear. I feel pressure behind, but overall, it's not too bad. Um, so the comfort aside, it also comes with the KZ Starline tip stock. I tested it for the most part with the standard non-Starline KZs, as these sealed better on my ears. I do not like the KZ Starlines, and if you get this earphone, I suggest harvesting tips from something else. Uh, but your mileage may vary. And then it comes with this new KZ cable as well, which is I guess, what is becoming their new standard cable style. No longer nicely braided or like the old one, but and it doesn't have a Y split adjuster. The Y split feels quite cheap. It's not really well. It's just a little piece right here preventing the cable from splitting any further, which is fine. It's functional. Um, but I guess that's the theme of this cable. Really, it's quite functional. It now, you know, now instead of the chintzy little braided wire, it's quite a solid single piece. Um, this piece right here seems fairly solid. No longer memory wire. It flows around freely. And at the very end, at the 3.5 millimeter connector, it has a really big and soft strain relief, which is quite nice to see at this price point. It's an improvement, in my opinion, over the standard KZ, and it flows quite nicely. It doesn't tangle too much. So overall, I think generally the build quality is quite positive, in my opinion. Um, Now, I would, I think a lot of the space here isn't being used very well on the inside. So I think well, I think they could have made this a little bit smaller, but whatever. KZ has their standard bodies, and they don't have all that many, and they build out scale. So, I don't think they would have made a custom body for this one earphone like that. Uh, so I guess now finally moving on to the sound. Um, 5 minutes in, uh, it's good. The bass response and the mid range is characteristically non-KZ in certain ways. Um, it doesn't have an elevated mid bass bloat like most KZ are known for, nor a super harsh treble response, aside from very high treble, which I'll get to later. But the bass response is very clean. It sounds quite accurate, quite neutral. It still has a good amount of emphasis on the very sub bass, but fans of the standard KZ models may find it a little bit thin. I find it honestly to be almost perfect. Now, mid-range response, it's less shouty than typical KZ. However, because of the lack of mid-bass emphasis, some might find it a bit dry sounding, maybe. Uh, but uh, it is still fairly accurate. It's a little bit shouty. Um, not too bad at all, really. Uh, well, some might find it a little bit shouty, but I found it to be fine. The vocal presence is quite good. You don't really need to add much to it. And I really think they put the pin arise in a fairly good place. So, at least for my ear. So overall, mid to bass is actually, in my opinion, quite accurate, uh, quite neutral to my preferences, really. And and I think its strengths lie there, really lie there. Sometimes, occasionally maybe I'll wish for a bit more sub bass or whatever. But aside from small nitpicks like that, I think generally, regardless of price point, this is actually quite a competitive earphone. Um, now, it depends on, it's very preferential, and I think that, because like overall this is a fairly good earphone, but I think its main problem will be in how much it alienates the current rather large KZ fan base, um, which I mean we'll have to see. However, so far it seems to have been a very positively received earphone. Um, Now, I think its only real weakness lies in the treble response. Uh, it's a little bit peaky, it's a little bit sharp, and it lacks detail. The treble extension on the upper extension is quite uneven. It doesn't work all that well, uh, and many have reported an 8K sibilant spike, which when I first used it, I found it to be quite problematic. I got used to it, sort of, but yeah, treble is not this strong point. However, around $30 at launch, this is really a hard earphone to complain about or to nitpick. And honestly, if you're looking for a Harman style or critical style, really, earphone on the cheap, I mean, it delivers. Without a doubt, it absolutely delivers. So, good on KZ, and this is really going in the right direction on their end. I'll probably have some more KZ videos up later, so check back for that. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, overall, happy to have this with me and happy to have it as a beater. I mean, even if you have real expensive IEMs, I think this serves as a good all-purpose beater. So, yeah, before I get into any tangents, this has been the KZ ZEX Pro / CRN, and I quite like it. So, yeah, gets a kick from me.